What's up, GW Movie Talk number 4 or 5? I don't remember which one we're on. But hey, listen, did you guys ever see The Beast Within? Take it that's a no on all fronts here. Alright. Well, it was released in February 12th of 1981. Stars Ronnie Cox and Paul Clemens. Paul Clemens plays a teen. If you don't know what that film's about, it's about Ronnie Cox and his new wife. They're driving through the swamp. They have some car trouble. And Caroline, played by Bibi Porsche, decides to get out and is attacked by a swamp monster. She's raped, assaulted. Years later, they have a kid, Michael. And Michael wants to know the origins about him because he starts having some kind of growing pains, if you will. Leads to an all-epic showdown because Michael turns into a giant man-eating cicada. Not making this up. But the budget for the picture, or the box office, was $7.7 million. Pretty good for a movie of that caliber in the 80s. It was directed by Philip Mora. That name, unless you're familiar with The Howling, doesn't make any sense because he directed Howling 2 and Howling 3. So, you might want to check it out. Scream Productions put out the master DVD or Blu-ray. And this does have a bad continuity error, I'm not going to lie. Late in the film, there is a scene of a window. There's a shotgun propped up in the window. The camera swivels to the left. And as soon as it swivels to the left, it takes a 5-second shot of an actor, swivels back, the shotgun's missing. Now you can look that up. It's pretty funny, actually, because they never did correct it. This is a pretty interesting movie, and it doesn't get a lot of recognition. When you say, hey, what's your favorite horror film of the 80s? The Beast Within's not going to come out. But this film has one cool thing, aside from the giant man and the cicada and the cheap rubber costumes there at the end. This is a pretty decent movie. But the one thing that you will notice is when Michael starts to change. And he changes at the end of the movie. It gets pretty bloody. But the other thing is that the transformation is nothing short of amazing. I mean, you can find clips all over it over YouTube, whatever. The makeup artists were very brilliant when they put this thing together. And my buddy Matt told me about this film. I had no idea. I mean, I've heard about it, thought it was stupid, but I never really checked it out. So I went and I checked it out. And it's different. It's a different sort of horror film than what we're used to. We're used to slashers, vampires, zombies. But we're not used to, things that you can't see, things that are hidden. And I think that's what makes this thing pretty scary. Because Michael, the whole time, doesn't know what he is. He just knows he has problems. And he thinks it's a sickness, yada, yada, yada. The one thing that is hard to watch, though, is the very beginning. Because, like I said, it's never cool to see a girl raped or mutilated by anything. But you have to set up a story. Now, it was written by Tom Holland. Tom Holland had a successful career in horror. He's done other stuff. But this, I think, was his first entry into the horror genre. I'm not sure, but he's done, like I said, other stuff. You have to watch this movie more than once because you kind of piece things together and you kind of come up with the fact that these creatures in the swamp have been fighting with this family for a long time. Sadly enough, again, no remake has been made. It would be really interesting to see The Beast Within remade because I think today's technology and special effects could do it a hell of a lot of justice. But for the shotgun scene alone I just mentioned, you guys should check that out. Also, like I said, if you're a Ronnie Cox fan, Ronnie Cox was the evil guy in RoboCop, Dick Jones. If you like his stuff, you might want to check this out. But all in all, a very unique horror picture. I don't. I'm kind of glad I didn't pass it up. You know, MGM put it out. And like I said, if you like the director's stuff, you might want to check out The Howling 2 and 3. If you don't know what those are werewolf pictures. Basically, there was 9 of them. You know how I learned that? Because number 2 was on the 10 most worst movies on Mojo.com. Horror films of the 80s. I don't believe so. I actually liked the second one. It had, heavy metal werewolves. I mean, what else do you need? But they named it, like I said, one of the worst pictures of the 80s, horror-wise. But again, you could see why that picture was made. It was rated worse because it had no connection to the original film. But definitely check out the original film and then jump to number 2. You could stop at number 2. They did make 9 of them, and they sort of peter out along the way. But The Beast Within is an underrated horror gem from the 80s. And it kind of focuses on something you don't see anymore, is the acting. Nowadays, you turn on a horror picture, it's all about how many zombies can we get on the screen. It's all about, how many kills can I rack up in 20 minutes. This one actually delved a little bit into story and saved the makeup effects for later. Kind of like Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Hell, where you never saw him till the end. Makes like a little treat for the audience. So The Beast Within, definitely give it a whirl. I was very, very surprised and delighted to see a film like this. And, like I said, the transformation alone is pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie to you guys. That being said, I want to talk about another film. And this one has a very, very special place in my heart as far as horror films go, because I saw it when I was 6 years old, and it scared the living crap out of me to go out and get the mail in the wintertime. Ghost Story. A lot of people probably don't know this film. Came out in 1981, runs an hour and 50 minutes. It was put out by Universal Studios, and they really, really did a hell of a good job with this film, especially if it sticks with you years and years later. Basically, 4 of America's leading actors have a horror story society called the Chowder Society in the film. Now, all 4 of these men are guilty of a crime, and you have to watch the film to pretty much figure it out, but they are all haunted by a woman, scared to death. Their death seems like accidents. I can say a lot about this film, but I would like you guys to watch this. One of the things that this thing does really good at, or has going for it, I should say, is it has a pretty good all-star cast. People might know Fred Astaire, a famous actor. Melvin Douglas, Douglas Fairbanks, John Houseman, Craig Watson, Patricia Neal. Patricia Neal plays the Spectre in this, and she is awesome. Alice Cringe, Burt Wessard. It was a John Irvin production. Let's see. Directed by John Irvin. This thing does not get enough credit. This sets up atmosphere like you wouldn't believe. There are scares, but not like today's scares, guys. I'm not talking about turn a corner and there's this guy with a hockey mask and an axe. No, I'm not talking that. I'm talking like I just mentioned. Taking a walk outside. You feel something on the back of your shoulder. You turn around and there's a specter there. Horrifyingly looking. And basically causes you to have a heart attack. Now this thing is really good, and it actually goes back to the past. So the hauntings are happening in the movie in the present, but the crime happened years ago, and you get to see what happened. And I'm telling you guys, honest to God, this thing scared the crap out of me. It was on Scream Theater, and when you're a kid, again, you go, hey, ghosts, let's check it out. You watch this and you're afraid to open a cabinet. You're afraid to take a walk because you don't know what could be lying just ahead of you. And this is a film that when me and my buddies talk about comes up all the time. We talk horror. This is a classic, very, very classic entry. And I really can't say enough about this. And it's filmed in such a way where you don't forget it. You know what I mean? It's got the look of a cold, dreary setting for the movie, which makes perfect sense for, what goes on in it. And this film starts off with a bang. One of the cheaper effects in this movie is a gentleman comes to bed and his wife or his girlfriend, you believe, is laying in bed. This is how this movie gets you. This is one example. And you think, oh, cool. He's going to come into the room, snuggle up, and then something bad's going to happen. No. The minute he turns over the woman, her face is all disfigured. He backs away, falls right out of a skyscraper into a swimming pool. Now, who the hell saw that coming whenever we turned this on? But it's jump scares like that keep you interested. And if you watch this, like I said, the atmosphere, the acting, and the story is something that you don't see in horror films anymore. And I really honestly can't stress the fact enough that this movie has the ability to frighten you. Not like today's horror films, but, picture walking out in the snow and you're looking for your buddy. And you know in your head there's nothing but snow, cold, and maybe trees between you and your buddy. And you turn around and it's a frozen, decayed skeleton. You weren't ready for that. That's the most memorable thing in this movie. And the fact that Albert Whitlock did a lot of cool special effects for this. There's rotting corpses, specters, just all kinds of cool stuff. So Ghost Story is one that you guys should definitely check out, especially if you like horror. And Connor, I know you do. So, today's movie talk, we covered The Beast Within with Paul Clemens and Ghost Story with Fred Astaire. By the way, I told you guys I was rocking a Chud shirt. But I just want to say, like I tell you every time, if I get you to check a movie out, that's great. So on that note, movie talk will resume next week. And I hope you like the 2 entries, and we're going to keep doing it. I think this format works a little better, because if I mess up, I mess up. But movie talk, you can go into any school, you can go into any restroom, and you could start just BSing about movies. I've taken that to an art form, I believe. And I think it's working well. Because that's how I know all my movies. Somebody had talked to me about it. Next thing you know, I check it out. So maybe you guys will do the same. GW, Movie Talk Episode 5. In the books. Next week, coming back with another episode.